say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good afternoon. Let us quiet our minds and open our hearts to see and feel the beauty of our surroundings and the gift of one another. Let us pray. God of all wisdom, we thank you for the splendor of the whole creation, for the beauty of this place, and for the wonder of life. Be with us as we step into this new path, this new journey for Sweet Briar College. Guide our steps so that they are confident, agile, creative, and light, ever aware of all who walk together on this new journey. We are grateful for curious minds, sound learning, new discovery, and wisdom. We are grateful for tasks which demand our best efforts and for accomplishments that satisfy and delight us. May we also be grateful for any disappointments or failures, understanding them to be the new opportunities for learning and wisdom. We ask you for eyes to see, ears to hear, minds to think, and hands to serve this community of Sweet Briar College. In all the days to come, we trust in your providence for this new journey for Sweet Briar College. Amen.
You may be seated. Good afternoon to our Sweet Briar College community and to our friends who have traveled to be with us in order to celebrate this special occasion. This campus is more than a beautiful space. It is a place where many hands are placed on the communal wheel, and as a result, lives are enriched and fierce women are equipped and empowered to change the world. It is a place of confident vision, innovation, ingenuity, and grit. And you see those qualities in all that we do. We gather today to celebrate an extraordinary woman of higher education, our new president, Meredith Woo, and to celebrate the new era we boldly and excitedly enter. We knew that Meredith was the one to lead us in this time when she thoughtfully explained that Sweet Briar was in need of bold change, yet the challenge would be to remain faithful to its authentic DNA. She deftly noted that while Sweet Briar was small, it was intriguingly complex. Quoting poet John Donne, she stated that Sweet Briar is a little world made cunningly. It was obvious that Meredith understood Sweet Briar and deeply believed in its objective to educate women of consequence. Meredith, we are so fortunate that you too almost immediately felt the fit of this partnership and intuitively knew the great things we could accomplish together under your visionary leadership. And we consider it an added bonus to be able to welcome such fine men as Bruce and Ben into our Sweet Briar family. We would not be here today without our legion of faithful soldiers, our former president, Phil Stone, his wife, Cheryl, our students, their families, our faculty and staff, our board of directors, and our amazing alumni and friends. Alumni folks here represented from the class of 1936 and 1946. But these soldiers, as I have called them, exhibited to the world the importance and relevance of women's higher education. We celebrate today the battles won, the setting of markers of exceptionalism, and the future victories over the daily challenges that will come with doing big things and thinking great thoughts. As we begin the pageantry and reverence of this ceremony, we must thank specially the chair of the Inauguration Committee and fellow board member, Alice Dixon. She envisioned this uniquely Sweet Briar Day, and then together with co-chair Butch Drake, committee members, and our professional staff, called us together in a most magnificent fashion. Will Alice and the Inauguration Committee members please stand to be recognized? Thank you for your tireless work. It shows, and we're so appreciative. In addition, let me ask President Stone to stand and be recognized for his formidable service to the success of Sweet Briar College. Welcome home, sir. I hope you and Cheryl feel our eternal gratitude. And to our mighty board of directors who quietly make the tough decisions full of an informed faith, an enlightened vision of the future, and a steadfast assurance of the perpetuity of the mission of Sweet Briar College, we thank you for your time, talent, and devotion. Will all current board members please stand to be recognized? And especially to our Vice Chair, Georgine Vero. We are the dynamic duo, and Georgine, I appreciate you more than you know. Likewise, I would ask that the Saving Sweet Briar Board of Directors members please stand. The former members of the Sweet Briar College Board of Directors who join us today, please stand. And our former presidents in attendance, Barbara Hall, Betsy Molenfeld, and Phil Stone. Please stand to be recognized for your tremendous service to Sweet Briar College. We also want to welcome some 56 delegates who have traveled from around the country to celebrate with us today. Please, delegates, stand and let us give you a warm Sweet Briar welcome for sharing of your time. We feel your encouragement. We feel you pulling for us. Thank you so much for being here to join in this great celebration. And to our many other fellow travelers on this journey, our students, faculty, staff, administrators, and alumni, we see you, and we recognize your indispensable role in this exciting trek. We feel the support and encouragement of one another and are fortified by it. And that, friends, is how great things are done. Mountains are moved, and history is made. Thank you for sharing your time with us today and for being a part of this special moment in our history. Welcome to the inauguration of the 13th president of Sweet Briar College, Meredith Jung-En Woo. And now we will have welcome statements from our staff, faculty, students, and alumni.
On behalf of the staff of Sweet Briar College, I am delighted to bring greetings. As I reflected upon what to say today, I was reminded of voices from the staff that echoed, "She is a thinker. She takes what seems complex and analyzes it for intentional actions. She is comfortable remaining silent until she has something intelligent to say. She challenged me to be smart and deliberately brilliant. She sees difference as a mechanism for collaboration. She remains awake to what is happening globally, but impactful locally." Of course, the she that I am referring to is our president, Meredith Woo. As you can see from the reflections, President Woo is an example of a liberal arts education in action. We are elated to embark on the envisioned journey of excellence that permeates the fabric of who we are and is not just something that we do. We commit to exercise our collective talents, to engage and cultivate an environment that empowers, produces 21st century leaders of consequence, and celebrates diversity as the pathway to excellence. And by the way, those leaders will just so happen to be the bold, fierce Sweet Briar women. You can clap if you want to. We stand with you as one Sweet Briar, united for the single purpose of providing an interconnected and dynamic community of learning to our students. We look forward to committing to making history together. Thank you.
I am happy to offer greetings to President Woo from the faculty. President Woo comes to Sweet Briar at a very exciting time in the history of the college. It's also a period of transition in higher education. And within this context, she has brought a compelling vision for women's education to Sweet Briar. While she's only been at Sweet Briar since May, she has already worked closely with the faculty on several initiatives. These include a new core curriculum focused on leadership, new interdisciplinary centers of excellence, and a new academic calendar that supports increased experiential learning. In collaboration, we will design an even more relevant and distinctive education for women at Sweet Briar. The faculty are excited to continue to work closely with President Woo, and we offer her and her family our warmest welcome to the college.
Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Marina Beal, and I am the Student Government Association President. 3 years ago, I sat and watched as the president took this stage and was inaugurated into our family. As a first year, I was so hopeful, and the bubble was everything I had thought it would be. As we all know, bubbles pop, as mine did in March 2015. Our bright bubble dissipated, and we were thrown into a messy situation without a roadmap. It's impossible to talk about Sweet Briar without talking about our past, without acknowledging our scabbing wounds and the trauma that came. To gloss this over would be to diminish what we've been through and how far we've come. We made a choice, though, to not give up on our home. We took all the lessons about grit, determination, and hope that Sweet Briar had given us and gave it back to the school that we love so much. It wasn't easy. With all the scrapes of rebuilding, I think we all hardened up a bit. As we welcomed the third president in my time here, it would be easy to become jaded and guarded over how we proceed. Change isn't easy. It never is, and we've experienced a lot of it. We all have questions and concerns, just as everyone else, the students do. But as we move forward, we need to let ourselves trust again. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean we need to stop asking questions and fighting for what we want, because that's just the way Sweet Briar women are. That just means we have to have faith in the future of our beloved college and the tenacious woman who is making sure Sweet Briar succeeds. With every year, we have progressed as a school and as a community. Each year brings me back more of that hope and optimism that I was so full of when I was a first year. Because just as we made the choice to save our school, we made the choice to keep looking forward, to keep fighting our future. I cannot think of anyone better suited to lead us in this challenge than President Woo. Her vision and determination will put Sweet Briar back on young women's top college lists, and she will help us prove to the world that an all-women's college is and always will be relevant. Like I said, it's easy to harden and become jaded as we start this new year and this new chapter, but I don't think that's what Sweet Briar is about. Sweet Briar is about moving forward and making it even better than where we found it. Thank you.
Hi. I feel totally inadequate representing an alumni group. How do you pronounce that? Alumni? Where's the Latin professor? That fiercely rose up, despite incredible odds, to reverse an attempt in 2015 to close our beloved alma mater, and succeeded. I am in awe. But I accepted the invitation, no matter my feelings of inadequacy, to welcome Dr. Meredith Woo as the lucky 13th president of Sweet Briar College. Because first of all, I am so impressed with her credentials and her ideas. She is a brilliant academician who possesses a passion and extraordinary expertise in supporting and growing the liberal arts and sciences at the college level. Secondly, I had the pleasure of spending some quiet time with Dr. Woo at this year's reunion, which, by the way, was the 60th reunion for the world-famous class of 1957. And I found her kind and understanding of why Sweet Briar College's alumni fought so hard and so effectively in 2015. So to receive an invitation to welcome her today is an honor and a privilege no one, and certainly not I, could turn down. Dr. Woo, your alumni are a group that understands that putting their resources, expertise, and physical power in support of our college is necessary and vital. The present board of directors includes alumni who initiated our fight to save the college and is led by our dynamic chair, alumna Teresa Tomlinson, who gave one of the most electrifying commencement speeches in 2015 that I have ever heard, and I've heard a lot of them. Alumni have not only saved the college financially, but also have served the college as the best amateur maintenance group. Painters, weed pullers, renovators than any college has ever had the good fortune to experience. With that kind of alumni support, can anyone doubt that Sweet Briar shall persevere? Dr. Woo, we have seen and heard you expound on plans for change that are innovative and promise to extend the history of this wonderful college for another 100+ years. Just as we were so thankful that President Phillip Stone came out of retirement to lift Sweet Briar out of the morass that was left by the previous administration, we believe that you will ably take up the reins of recovery and lead the college to a stable and continuously maturing future, as you have already begun to do. Under your stewardship of Sweet Briar College, we look forward to more Sweet Briar women alumni assuming leadership roles in a changing world. And as they have done in the past, we know our alumni leaders of the future will make not just the college, but the world a better place. On behalf of a passionately loyal alumni, welcome President Woo.
Thank you to all of our representative speakers this afternoon. You can see that we have such a passionate group of supporters, and that's why we are able to do such great things. We're also so very pleased today to have two outstanding speakers, friends of President Woo's, who've come to congratulate her and to see this place for themselves. First, we have John T. Castine III. John Castine is a lifelong devotee of higher education. A synopsis of his professional accomplishments is set forth in your program. John is best known as the former president and now president emeritus of the University of Virginia. He probably does not know that I know the instrumental role he played in the marriage of Sweet Briar College and Meredith Woo. For that, we are deeply grateful. Mr. Castine came to know President Woo while she was dean at the University of Michigan. He saw in her a higher education innovator and enticed her to the University of Virginia to aid in the strengthening and the growth of its College of Arts and Sciences. While their mutual professional admiration has grown through the years, John's son, John Castine IV, was teaching creative writing at Sweet Briar College, further enlightening him to the mission and possibilities of this institution. John knows what it takes to successfully lead a college in today's world, and we are thrilled to have him with us to share his thoughts on this special occasion. John.
About a decade ago, the name Meredith Woo began turning up in small talk that I heard at meetings of college and university presidents. Small talk about women and men, new people in the sense of new to leadership in higher education, who might begin to lead America's colleges and universities perhaps in the next generation. At that time, she was the Korea Foundation Professor of Political Science in the University of Michigan. She was known for a series of provocative, widely read, and discussed books and monographs, most of them focused on trade and economic growth and international collaboration in Asia, and all of them essential to any thoughtful commentary on Korea, where she was born, and on the United States, where she had lived and worked since her college days. Specialists in East Asian studies knew her, respected her intellect, and her drive for personal excellence. We non-specialists knew only that she wrote uncommonly well, that she had produced and directed a remarkable film about Stalin's ethnic cleansing of Korean people living during his Great Terror in far eastern Russia, and that we wanted to know more. In the fall of 2007, as you've just heard from your chair, Professor Woo had become the University of Michigan's Associate Dean for Social Sciences in the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts. UVA's dean, the historian Edward Ayers, was moving at the time to become president of the University of Richmond. Our search committee learned about Meredith Woo as it surveyed younger, academically distinguished deans elsewhere. With regard to her, the issues were complex. On UVA's side, we needed the next dean to complete a major capital funds campaign, to complete the first major expansion of our college's physical plant in almost a generation, and to take the place of an uncommonly successful predecessor. The stakes in this search were high. We knew that we had to make the right choice. On Professor Woo's part, we saw many issues. It was not immediately clear that she might take interest in us. Her family at that time was in Chicago and in Korea and elsewhere. Her expertise in Korean studies was different from the Chinese specializations of most of our faculty in East Asian studies. We had no good personal contacts with her. Some thought that our college's financial needs might argue for appointing a dean already known to alumni and donors. And yet, our search chair and the provost brought her name each time we met to discuss progress in the search. She visited, met faculty members and boosters and students, talked at some length with the provost, and suddenly the search consultant and the provost began telling me that Professor Woo might very well be the transformational dean we needed. They told me that she was remarkably smart and quick. She had done her homework. She knew more about us than we could know about her. She understood the need within liberal arts colleges for new leaders, capable of reinvigorating the liberal arts core that makes the American collegiate system different from all others and so successful. She was intellectually tough, and she listened well. The rest you know. Meredith Woo came to us as dean, committed for 5 years. During those years, she remade our college, giving it a solid administrative design, a cadre of capable administrators, most still there now and some here today, and talented younger faculty members in almost all the major disciplines. While accomplishing these things, she raised almost twice the ambitious sum we had asked her to raise, built out the South Lawn Project, and provided stability during the crisis years that began in 2008 and continued almost the month when she left us to go to London and the Open Society Foundation. During these years, Meredith and I came to be friends. I would say close friends, who discussed the larger topics and the little ones, the day's news. Each time we met, we managed to resolve all the world's problems. Our work and our travels, our children, our lives within our families. Some days we had it all figured out. Other days we saw that we had none of it figured out. But each conversation was a kind of gift for me, a chance to hear and sense the movement of a splendid mind and spirit confronting the most important issues in the sector where both of us lived. I saw these conversations as making me aware that my own era as a university president was tapering toward its end, but that Meredith was just opening up. And now Sweet Briar College. Your college, now also Meredith's College, has been in the news and much on my own mind during the period of crisis here that captured the nation's attention in 2015. At the time, as you know, my son John was teaching here. As the crisis took shape, he talked frequently about his belief in your college and its mission. As you have, he got it, and he talked about it. From time to time, I run a seminar for people preparing to do the kinds of work that I have done. Sweet Briar's issue caught my students' attention, and in each meeting, someone brought up the week's newspaper reports about Sweet Briar College. Then, with short notice, the magazine Trusteeship, whose readers are trustees and presidents of colleges and universities, asked me to write an article intended for colleges facing challenges more or less like those that you, your board and alumni, and faculty famously faced at that time. I was writing during the weeks when Sweet Briar's alumni leaders and friends, including people who now serve on your board of directors, worked with Virginia's Attorney General to craft the resolution that brings us here today and to attract Phil Stone to come here as president. A descriptor of Sweet Briar women, a memorable phrase, turned up repeatedly as I worked my way through this little article. Sweet Briar can do, I heard. Sweet Briar women are can-do women. Sweet Briar attracts students and faculty members who share a bias toward action, toward getting done what needs doing. This descriptor, can do, brings me to President Woo, and Sweet Briar steps forward. To say that collegiate and university leaders elsewhere welcome President Woo to her position here is to skim the surface of an issue that is Sweet Briar's, but that belongs to us all. Since about 2010, discussions at the presidents and trustees meetings here in Virginia and across the country have often sought to understand and respond to currents of change that affect all of us. 20 years ago, we wondered about what was then called vocationalism, the arrival of generations of students who wanted more or less to reject the liberal arts core and to instead roll in courses to prepare them specifically for work or specific and tangible jobs. Enrollments in many liberal arts colleges softened as students sought credentials that were, for many of them, more accessible and perhaps quicker to learn in other colleges or other kinds of colleges. A few liberal arts colleges closed. Others became something else as they adapted in order to keep their enrollments. Among several of Sweet Briar's qualities that were on President Woo's mind when she called to tell me about her interest in becoming your president, several remain in my own mind. She relished the challenge of overseeing a small college. The way of life here appealed to her family and to her. She liked the faculty colleagues she met on her first visits. She had read the budgets, read all of the clippings, heard advice from many different people whose perspectives or opinions she valued. And from all of this, she found inside herself a powerful drive for women's education in these United States, and that led her to desire to become Sweet Briar's president and to take on work that she believed was both pressing and doable. Our nation and its institutions, certainly its colleges and certainly Sweet Briar, thrive in the care of leaders who look hard and directly at challenges that drive off others. In a large societal sense, Meredith, we need you and your care for this wonderful, now renascent institution, just as Sweet Briar's search committee and directors have come to believe that this college needs you also. This special place of teaching and learning, devoted during its 116 years to educating and cultivating can-do women, will thrive and prosper in your time and in your collaboration with the women and men who've come today to greet you, and with many others who will follow after them. Godspeed, my friend. Flourish here.
Thank you, John. We are fortunate to have Kamal Ahmad with us today. Kamal's biographical summary can be found in your program, but suffice it to say, He is a man who profoundly understands the significance of empowering women. Kamal grew up in Bangladesh and even as an adolescent worked to spread the foundational gift of education by establishing a series of afternoon schools for domestic workers. More recently, he founded the Asian University for Women, AUW, in Bangladesh, where they prepare and mold young women to be game changers. Kamal and Meredith met in the pursuit of a joint mission to spread the impact of AUW to some of the most oppressed women in the world. Both Kamal and Meredith profess that when you educate women, you educate generations. Please help me in welcoming Kamal Ahmad.
Thank you. Thank you, Teresa. When Meredith first spoke about Sweet Briar, she would get particularly excited in describing this magical land on which this campus rested. And yesterday, as I drove up to Sweet Briar House, I began to finally see the trees, the lush green, the rolling hills that make this place so beautiful, and the beauty and charm that Meredith had described. But what I also realized is what must have attracted Meredith to this amazing place is the incredible warmth and hospitality of everybody around here. I want to congratulate Sweet Briar for its epic renewal of its commitment to women's education. Your courage and your unrelenting devotion to your beloved institution have inspired and touched us even 8,000 miles away. In a setting vastly different from here, but with a mission that is just as evocative as Sweet Briar's. And I congratulate my friend Meredith Woo for taking on the leadership for this new surge in Sweet Briar's history. I have known Meredith for a number of years. As you know, she's a distinguished political scientist who has run many important and large institutions. John has highlighted some of the important ventures she had pursued in her career. People who have worked with her know her as this incredible leader. But she's also that rare person who is as thoughtful, as creative, as smart, as strategic, as humorous, and above all, as empathic a person you can ever hope to meet. Meredith came to visit the Asian University for Women in Chittagong, Bangladesh. I'm sure most of you have never heard of Chittagong. It's in the southern tip of Bangladesh. It was a time when we wanted to develop, we were already witnessing the surge of refugees from Burma, of the Rohingya people around the borders of Bangladesh and Burma. Meredith came, she came to visit the refugee camps. We walked from one hut to another. She spoke with the hundreds of people who were gathered without really any hope in this setting. And it was then that Meredith decided that we needed to indeed do something for the people of this community. And just within 3 months, she had already funded the program, and we had the Rohingya, some 70 students from the Rohingya community recruited, enrolled, and in classes. Only Meredith could have pulled it off in such lightning speed. And she did because she cared and she knew exactly how to get things done. I count myself as enormously fortunate to have Meredith as a friend. I know as she gives more of her mind's energy and life spirit to Sweet Briar, this venerable institution will be transformed into the best it has ever been. And all of us here will stand proud of this achievement. I want to mention a little bit about my own background in women's education. And I mention it because it will perhaps tell you a bit about the context in which Meredith came to visit us. I often go back to think of my own inspiration for getting involved in women's education. There is a photo in my house of my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, my sister, and her daughter. What is impressive about this photo is the aggregation of 5 generations, but it's also that my great-grandmother and my grandmother didn't actually live very long lives. They were married very young, and they had children very young. My great-grandmother was married at 9, my great-grandmother at 11. They were incredibly smart and brave women, but they were cut off from education. They were cut off, therefore, from any role in public life. Yet, 100 years after my great-grandmother was born, the world, eerily for us, still doesn't provide education for women. And with all the early marriages and childbirths, and out of these unfortunate circumstances spring even more unfortunate consequences of higher maternal and child mortality, violence against women who never develop enough confidence to resist, and it produces an endless cycle of despair. Women's education is the most powerful way to change the destiny of societies. We need each of you to help remake this world where the stories of my great-grandmother remain just as stories, and the world before us wakes up with every girl in every corner of the world free, their childhood protected, with the full opportunities for education granted to them, so that they, indeed, like Sweet Briar's motto, they become more useful members of the society, and perhaps even more lead and change our societies toward achieving the long eluding ideal of equality. I'm confident that with Meredith's leadership at Sweet Briar will transcend the local community and indeed become part of the global world that will help address some of the most pressing problems in the world. Congratulations, Meredith.
Kamal, thank you for those inspiring words. We invite to the podium Carrie Brown, our Margaret Bannister Writer-in-Residence, to read Perennial, an original poem written by Molly Macaulay Brown for Meredith Woo on the occasion of her inauguration as the 13th president of Sweet Briar College. Molly Brown is the daughter of Carrie and John Gregory Brown, both professors here at Sweet Briar. She was raised on this campus. Today, she resides in Arkansas and is a much-published poet and author. Molly is the John Baskins Writer Fellow at Oxford American Magazine. I commend to you the more thorough listing of Molly's accomplishments and publications set forth in your program. Carrie.
Good afternoon. Perennial for Meredith Woo on the occasion of her inauguration as the 13th president of Sweet Briar College by Molly Macaulay Brown. When a plant lives through one winter and then another still, endures the shock of frost, somebody's boot there overhead, the way the ground stiffens to steel, and then comes back and blooms again, we call it a perennial, meaning enduring, ceaseless, abiding, meaning Isn't the rose even brighter this year, the palm of it opening again in the garden? It's a wild thing, the way that kind of fortitude shows up as tenderness, the teeth that strain of beauty has. The same roots hold fast through years and years of weather, and inside the cells renew and redouble, making more blooms, furthering the garden's reach until there are flowers scaling every wall. Here's the thing to know about surviving. Here's the magic of it. It happens when you are the sturdy thing that made it through the ages and a new thing all at once.
And now for a musical interlude by the Righteous Brass and the Sweet Tones. Thank you, ladies, and thank you to the brass band. And now for the passing of the artifacts. Meredith, if you would, please. President Stone. By virtue of the authority of Sweet Briar College and the Board of Directors, I now commit to you the will of Indiana Fletcher Williams, which provided for the establishment of Sweet Briar College. The Charter of Sweet Briar College, which states, "Be it enacted to the General Assembly of Virginia that a corporation and body politic is hereby created under the name and style of Sweet Briar Institute, approved February 9, 1901, incorporating the Sweet Briar Institute in the county of Amherst, Virginia." the seal of Sweet Briar College used on all official documents of the college. And a pen used during the signing of the settlement agreement in June 2015, resolving the litigation in 3 lawsuits brought against the former leadership of the college to enjoin their announced decision to close the college. And now I will administer the oath of office. Meredith Jung-En Woo, you have been elected by the directors of Sweet Briar College to be its 13th president. As president, your influence will fall across the paths of many: faculty, staff, students, alumni, parents, and fellow administrators. It is the hope and the expectation of the board of directors that in the fulfillment of your task, you will bring to and call forth from the members of this educational community the highest in scholarship, the best in teaching and learning, and the finest of our heritage and culture. To these ends, I pledge to you the support and assistance of the directors of the college. By the authority vested in me by the charter and the bylaws of Sweet Briar College, and on behalf of the board of directors, I do declare you president of Sweet Briar College and deliver to you the presidential medallion, charging you to carry out faithfully the duties and responsibilities of that office. I now present to you, friends of Sweet Briar College, the 13th president, Dr. Meredith Jung-En Woo.
Thank you. Dear trustees, students, faculty, alumni, friends, and Alice Dixon, who commandeered every aspect of the day, including the heavens, for the glorious sunshine. This day belongs to you, as much as it does to Sweet Briar College and to this president who's now called upon to lead it. The campus looks immaculate, thanks to the facility staff who have worked around the clock to put our best face forward on this wonderful day. I'm noticing there are flower baskets hanging from poles over 8 feet. This must be part of daily battle with the deer that cohabit the earth with us. If we can't maintain flowers that spring from the ground up, they must be hoisted to the sky. Thank you for adding exuberant color to what is otherwise a palette of emerald green. Today is also the Founders' Day, and as is our tradition, I led the procession this morning up to Monument Hill, which is the highest point on what used to be a plantation and that overlooks the campus. On that hill, we are always reminded of the origins of this college. On the monument, it is inscribed, "Dedicated to the sweet remembrance of dear Daisy by her sorrowing parents, James Henry and Indy Fletcher Williams." They were sorrowing parents in the present progressive. That is, they were in grief so deep and profound over the loss of their only child that it nearly incapacitated them. Aeschylus, the Greek playwright, once wrote about such pain as the Williamses must have experienced. Quote, "And even in our sleep, pain that cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart. And in our despair, against our will, comes wisdom to us by the awful grace of God." Daisy was born in Sweet Briar in September 1867, 150 years ago to date. Amid the ravages of the war, the ruins of the economy and their way of life, and poverty that surrounded the confines of the Sweet Briar plantation, she was a child living in an island of extraordinary privilege. Dividing her time between New York and Amherst, she went to New York's best schools to receive instruction in music, European languages, algebra, history, philosophy, literature, and geography, and supplemented her learning through visits to museums, opera, theater, and for a little R&R, Barnum's Circus. She was taken to shop at Lord & Taylor's and Tiffany's, and she browsed books at Brentano's. In her beloved Sweet Briar plantation, where she spent the summers, she acquired an expert understanding of trees, fruits, plants, and especially flowers, most of which flourished around the Sweet Briar house. Her mother, Indiana, was her tutor in the science of botany. Had her life not been cut short, she would have gone on to enjoy a life of privilege and consequence. She was being groomed to meet at the highest level the demands of the time for someone of her social standing. But even from the perch of great wealth and privilege, she would have been witness to a most complex and baffling part of history, both here in the United States and abroad. Daisy still would have lived in the South of Jim Crow. Daisy still wouldn't have had voting rights well into her middle age. In fact, she would have lived at a time when women would have fought, and failed again before finally gaining their rights. Daisy would also have observed, perhaps from her brownstone in New York and the plantation in Amherst, the unfolding of a century the historian Eric Hobsbawm called the Age of Extremes, which he begins with World War I and the Bolshevik Revolution. This age of extremes was defined by massive wars, including atomic bombs, communism, fascism, the Holocaust, and mass exterminations, disasters that became magnified by modern ideologies aided by technology, which managed to incinerate societies on an unprecedented scale. However terrible our recent problems, the brutalities of terrorism, ethnic cleansings in Myanmar, nuclear proliferation in North Korea, the antediluvian Taliban and ISIS wanting to rule Afghanistan and maybe the modern world itself, and the refugees from the destruction of the entire countries in Syria, Iraq, and Libya. They don't compare with the large-scale brutalities of the organized madness of the 20th century that Daisy would have witnessed had she lived to be an old and wise woman. Our students assembled here, you are fortunate to have been born and reared outside the age of extremes, ISIS notwithstanding. So your citizenly duty is to make sure that these extremes of hatred and racism not rear their head, and the organized madness of the 20th century remains in and of a most unfortunate past. Our students here today are some of the most diverse to arrive at the college. Look at yourselves. You're diverse, measured by the usual metrics like ethnicity and race. You're also diverse by another measure of diversity. Diversity is excellence, and I hope we measure our excellence by the way we cherish and work with differences. I had a colleague at the University of Michigan, Scott Page, a game theorist who wrote a fine book called The Difference. It is full of equations that show groups that display a range of perspectives outperform groups of like-minded experts. Diversity yields superior outcomes, and the difference beats out homogeneity, whether we're talking about citizens in a democracy or scientists in the lab. The best collective whole that exceeds the sum of its parts is one that relies on human diversity. Not what we look like from outside, but what we look like from within, our distinct tools and abilities. The world faces enormously complex problems that require truly creative solutions. To solve these problems, we need people with diverse skills, people with diverse ways of conceptualizing, imagining, and doing things, people with different life experiences and different memories of what worked and what didn't, people with different reference, people who think alike with the same reference, experiences, and skill sets cannot get quite as far in solving complex problems. That is why Silicon Valley, with the variegated multitude of humanity from every background, revolutionized the world and continues to go forward from strength to strength. Why Manhattan, a magnet for humanity from everywhere, is so dynamic, constantly reinventing capitalism as it resuscitates, rejuvenates it. Much as I hope some of you will one day attain the wealth that Daisy would have inherited, it is true that what you have inherited is perhaps more valuable. An open age where you can learn, grow, experiment, and ultimately find out what works for you. It is an optimistic age where, in spite of all our economic difficulties and political differences, all things worldly are open to you. As is written in The Merry Wives of Windsor, the world is your oyster. At Sweet Briar, we prepare you so you will have your own very oyster and eat it too. Thousands of Sweet Briar alumni fought for, and rooted for Sweet Briar, so it will continue to produce, as it has done for over a century, women of consequence. Many are here today, including the alumni members of the board of directors, as well as Saving Sweet Briar Incorporated and classes from the 1930s on down to the present. They are women of great intelligence, experience, and energy, and above all, indomitable will. 2 years ago, the revolt of the alumni made history in American higher education, but I'm not sure what to call it. We might call it the War of the Roses, if it doesn't evoke struggles of English royal houses donning different colors of roses. Or the Revolution of the Roses, if it had not referred to the transfer of power in Georgia as in Eastern Europe and not in the American South. Whatever it is called, it altered for once and all the role and significance of the stakeholders in American college. Alumni are no longer people who simply send in checks in December and May, although I would still urge you to do that. Or in a different context, to tailgate before football games. They can also be protectors and guardians of great and venerable institutions. Arriving as I did 4 months ago to this college, I'm not privy to the revolt of the roses that got us to where we are today. Over the summer, however, I witnessed something I'd never seen before in my life as a university administrator. So many women, as well as men, who flooded this campus to do simple, hard labor to prepare the college for the arrival of this year's students. I saw alumni, along with some faculty and staff, painting over 200 rooms in all the halls in 4 dorms: Manson, Carson, Grammar, and Meta Glass. I saw women painting the parlor of Grammar, belting out "Ain't No Mountain High Enough" with Diana Ross on the radio. I saw women cleaning the cornerstone of Fletcher Hall, which contains the inscription that reveals the spiritual foundations of this secular college. Quote, "Except the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it." End of quote. I saw women pulling weeds, pruning, raking, and mulching. These are Sweet Briar women, professionals, mothers, sisters, daughters, wives, and increasingly caregivers for their elderly parents. They were back to retrieve the past that meant so much for them and to make it meaningful again for the students who come after them. Revolutionaries are often forgetful people. They shake up the status quo, usher in the new, and then they get lost in the order of things they have wrought. But not the Sweet Briar women. They have been back time again, every July and August, to give their labor of love to the generations after them. Women's colleges are anachronisms, some people say, artifacts of the time when women were denied education in fine private colleges and universities, and that when the latter flung open their doors to women, it marked the end of the women's colleges as we knew them. As the great American philosopher Yogi Berra once said, "It ain't over till it's over." If the number of women's colleges is shrinking in the United States, the number was never great in the rest of the world either. There are countries that entered modernity through communist revolution, like Russia, China, and others, for whom equality translated to gender equality, which translated to coeducation at all levels, including higher education. The colleges and universities in that part of the world were born coeducational. And then there are countries that entered modernity through struggles for national independence and decolonialization. In many parts of the post-colonial societies, as they gained their independence after World War II, their colleges and universities, too, were born coeducational. Single-sex higher education for women was considered unmodern, if not pre-modern, or unprogressive, or in fact, largely unknown. Universities and colleges are bellwethers. They are incubators of leaders and the promises of the future. Around the world, the universities and colleges are doing both very well. They're exploding with students, and they're not doing very well. According to the UNESCO, in 1900, the percentage of people in relevant age group that was enrolled in college was less than 1%. In 2000, the percentage was 20%. By 2014, it climbed to 34%. Not all of these students are learning in beautiful classrooms as our students do. They may be getting their education in class or through educational TV or online or through papers delivered on the back of the donkeys. But they are enrolled in colleges which are big, getting bigger, even getting massified. Meanwhile, all around the world, except perhaps in Northeast Asia, the governments are retrenching fiscally and backing away from the support of colleges and universities. In short, the numbers are up, but the quality is down. This raises two related set of questions. What is to be done about the questionable quality of higher education and about the women who are enrolled, often in greater numbers than men, even as the halls of their governments, political parties, not to mention their boardrooms, remain eerily bereft of women? From Cape Town in South Africa, where people never heard of colleges for women only, to Beijing, China, where they look to their neighbors like Korea and Japan with thriving single-sex institutions, they are beginning to ask important questions about the quality of education and about education that meaningfully empowers women, and not in name only. What these nations have on their hands today is the remains of the day of higher education, and not always a good education predicated on their idiosyncratic conception of modernity as well as gender equality. Women's colleges are a good idea. It is one whose time has come. Whose time has come and not gone. Around the world, people look to the United States and excellent small women's colleges like Sweet Briar to meaningfully provide the kind of education that allows women to find their place in the sun or to have their oyster and eat it too. My good friend Kamal Ahmad here, who founded the Asian University for Women in Chittagong, Bangladesh, is here with us today. You may know that I worked for a philanthropic organization called the Open Society Foundation, directing their global higher education program. Asian University for Women, or AUW, is one of the institutions that we supported. It's an American-style liberal arts college for women, a small and excellent one like Sweet Briar. It receives and educates largely first-generation women from countries that God has not smiled on. One of the things that Kamal and I did together was to recruit for AUW 75 of the best and brightest young women from an ethnic group called the Rohingyas, arguably one of the most persecuted people in the world, most of whom reside in Myanmar and Bangladesh, although nearly 500,000 have fled for their lives to Bangladesh in just recent weeks. And to have their young women educated at AUW in the best tradition of the liberal arts. Kamal has bet, and I supported him, that these young Rohingya women are the leaders of tomorrow who will in turn help educate other Rohingya people and who will help build their society when ethnic persecution is no more and their future is finally and firmly in their hands. When you educate women, he always told me, they will in turn educate their families, their clans, and eventually their societies. AUW produces women who are confident, smart, articulate, and even a little in your face. I am preternaturally attracted to people who are resilient and tough, like women at Sweet Briar, and who say no when they're told to say yes, because in their gut they believe it is the right thing to do. I read somewhere that more real intelligence resides in your gut than in your brain. The Sweet Briar women are probably exhibit A in that regard. I grew up in Korea. At the time, a country was still reeling from the devastations of war, maybe just a little like Daisy after the Civil War. When Korea became independent in 1945, my father was in the first class to graduate from college, gaining a degree in economics. He immediately joined the Ministry of Finance and then the Economic Planning Agency. For the next 30 years, he designed, along with his colleagues, something called industrial policy. By the economic nostrums of the age, this was the wrong thing to do. They were repeatedly told they should not do 5-year plans because only the Soviets did that kind of thing. They were told they should not focus on manufacturing because their comparative advantage was in agriculture. They were told they should not export because they had nothing to offer that anyone would want to buy. In the event, they continued to design 5-year indicative plans for industries they wanted to encourage and also supported with compassion and intelligence the industries that were left behind. My father would leave home at 5 a.m. to visit the local market for a spot check on the price of charcoal briquettes, which were used to heat homes, and of squares of tofu. This would tell him how prices were fluctuating throughout the country. Over half a century, civil servants like my father took a country poor by every measure except education, set progressive goals, and export targets which were met year after year after year after year until they soon transcended any experience in modern times in terms of economic growth. South Korea was the most rapidly growing country in the world from the mid-60s to the mid-1990s. I have in my heart a complicated understanding about those intelligent voices said to reside in the gut, voices that defy all principles and rules, that defy powers that be who tell you what you can't do. That's why I'm in awe of the women at Sweet Briar and deeply honored to lead this venerable institution into the future. With you, I'm determined to show through example how higher education can be transformed when all stakeholders are unified with the singular purpose to create a future that is open, exciting, and new. But now, we must return to our old Greek friend, Aeschylus, who wrote of pain that is relentless and unceasing, and of the wisdom that, in spite of it all, comes to us by the awful grace of God. We wonder about that wisdom that inevitably found its way into the hearts of the sorrowing parents. Shortly after the announcement of my appointment, I received a handwritten note from Ellen Saunders, an alumna who lives in Suffolk, Virginia. Indiana Fletcher Williams had written in her last will, the one that created the college, that it must educate women to be useful members of society. Ruminating on the word useful, Ellen reflected that the most meaningful measure of success that she might apply to her life is not the height that she might have climbed in her profession, nor the success she might have had as mother, wife, or homemaker. What she had done was endeavor to be useful to her family, to her society, to all she touched. It is a sign of life well lived. It is also the sign of life of the Sweet Briar women, as Indiana Fletcher would have wanted, and which was so well fulfilled. I'm so full of hope for the future ahead of us, and to become of use to the young women gathered here so they can go forth in the world and just crush it. Thank you.
All right, we ask the crowd to please remain standing and join us in singing our alma mater, the Sweet Briar song, the lyrics of which can be found in your programs.
Dear friends of Sweet Briar and dear community of Sweet Briar College, go forth. Go forth in peace, in joy, in hope, and rejoice always. Amen.